I might just start at the end, which is, why is fitness and routine so important when it comes to creativity in your experience?
I think because it creates space and frees up energy. I think that, well, I want to start by saying I think every single person is creative. And I think certain personality types nurture their creativity better than others. But as human beings, we are creative beings. We're designed to problem solve and we're designed to express ourselves. And I think that, yeah, it's a common misconception that people that are creative have to be really chaotic and spontaneous, and they might work erratic hours, or they might work for hours and an end and then have days where they don't work. And actually, like, to be a bit geeky about it, it's actually like around the neuroscience of how we nurture the structure of our day and how that directly impacts our neuroscience that actually helps us create more space and have more energy to create, like whatever that endeavor is,
Yeah.
whatever that creativity is. So, yeah, actually, the more that you're able to create structure, the less things you have like taking up space in your brain. And that's like particularly key for people as well that are maybe neurodivergent, ADHD particularly, where they feel like they have like 40 tabs running open in their brain all the time.
Yeah.
So I kind of talk about it as like, if you've got some structure, whether it's, you eat your meals at the same time and you exercise on the same days or whatever, you can close some tabs because you already don't need to think about that because it's just happening.
Yes. Take me back to when you set up Sculpt and why you set it up. And it's gone through a real transformation as well, because now you have your own premises.
Mhm.
So, take us back to the start of your fitness journey, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so going way back when, my background is actually in the arts. So I was working as an artist myself when I sort of came to fitness, I guess. So during the time that I was working as an artist, my schedule was quite chaotic. I went from having loads of work to having hardly any. I was very much self-led. So an art degree is very self-led. Obviously you have some deadlines, but it's very much led by you around what your interests are, having to do the research, creating the work. So I was very self-directed and self-led already. But I was finding that my boundaries around work and energy and all these other things were off. I also started to have a few health issues, and I basically used the gym to say, right, on these 3 days a week, I'm going to close my laptop at 6 p.m. and go to the gym. And I didn't know what I was doing. I'd made all the mistakes that everyone does at the start. I did about 6 exercise classes back to back and thought I hadn't done anything right until I was on a pool of sweat on the floor and could barely, walk home. So I made all those mistakes at the start as well. But yeah, basically I was just like, that's what I'm going to use as a way to kind of like start structuring my day. Because otherwise I would just work till like 8, 9 p.m., it's endless. So that's how I got into fitness myself. Yeah.
And then when you started to kind of get the buzz and the feel for fitness and how that was really supporting you in your sort of day-to-day routine, where did the idea of Sculpt come from then? Because you must have then started to do your training, your coaching training, and how did that sort of evolve?
So as an artist at the time, my research practice was in the body as a performance tool. So I was starting to work with bodybuilders, CrossFitters, dancers, people with various creative practices that involved their body to perform for them. So that was kind of my research practice at the time, alongside like going to the gym myself. And then I basically just realized like, how much there was to learn. And so I started doing my qualifications and I thought, well, even if I just use it for myself, it's going to be beneficial. And then I just really started to see, how much of a disservice it does for female presenting people in terms of what you learn, in terms of the research, in terms of a lot of the narratives within the fitness industry around body size, around weight loss, around all of that stuff, that I
Mm,
was like, you know what, I want to do this a bit better.
yeah. And you are very articulate as well when you're talking about this on your social media platforms as well. You speak to this a lot. It's very important to you that we do demystify and unpick those narratives, isn't it?
Yeah. Because I just feel like I was active when I was younger, and I got to go to dance, and I did a little bit of horse riding and various things, but I was not like a sporty kid. I bunked off PE all
Mm,
the time. In my, as soon as I got out of that kind of sort of, I don't really know what you call it, but that kind of club age, so maybe 12, 13 or whatever, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything until I felt that I was overweight. And so, yeah, I also think a big thing in the fitness industry is a lot of people are sort of young athletes, or they've been semi-pro, or they've had this real like history of being, which is partly also why they look the way they look, which we also
yeah.
don't talk about a lot of the time. Someone that's been a semi-pro swimmer since they were 11 has a very different metabolism to someone who started exercising in their 20s. But yeah, so I basically, as much as I think everyone's creative, I also think that everyone is and should be active. It's just that we need to create a way for those people that don't feel like gym types to feel welcome, to feel comfortable, and also just like get rid of this sense of like, if I'm doing something, it has to be, this peak level idea of activity and fitness and physique. Like, no, like we all actually mostly are in this like middle,
Yeah.
middle band, because we all have
Yeah.
many other things, endeavors in our life. So,
Yeah. And something that, when I was working with you, I know that I really struggled with prioritizing my fitness, my nutrition, probably because of mindset, actually.
mhm,
We talked a little bit about it when I was working with you, and honestly, I think I just used it as a bit of an excuse
mhm,
because I've got a little one at home. I'm working full time. I have so many other things that I need to do during the week. And actually, what you're saying is, hmm, we just need to rebalance that and think more clearly about why we are prioritizing it and being happy with being in that middle band. Like you
mm,
don't need to go all out
mhm.
for to feel the benefits of it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I guess what I would like to ask you, when you say about the mindset thing, do you think
Hmm.
it's almost like because you felt that you could or would never achieve X, that you almost felt like, is there any point in doing Y? You know what I mean?
I have a real issue with committing myself to
Mm-hmm.
something because, especially when it comes to fitness, because I would want to be able to give it absolutely everything
Mm, mm,
and go all at it. And if I know that I can't do that, I struggle then to commit
mm, mm, mm,
because other things are gonna take my time, other things are gonna take my thoughts, my energy.
mm-hmm.
But that's something that I've got to try and work out because I can commit to things. It's just when I do that and the timing and all of those things.
100%. Yeah, I think,
And I think a lot of people do struggle with that as well, don't they?
yeah, I think one of the most challenging things is actually what we do when we work with people to change habits or systems, and that
Mm,
could be in anything. Really, what you're looking at over time is changing someone's value system and their
mm.
beliefs. And you can't sit down with a client in their first consultation and say, I'm going to change your value system, because they'll be like, F off. No, you're not. This is what I value and what I think. And this.
Yeah, you're so
And,
right.
and so that's what you need to do with a client very slowly over time. And that's led by them. Some people that's 6 months, some people that's 6 years. But the problem with it is you also can't really speak to that on social media because that's long-term stuff. That's like, you're not changing someone's value system in 6 weeks.
No.
Like, that's just not possible. You might change someone's habits for a while, but then generally what happens is when you take the system away, whatever it is, the coach, the app,
Hmm.
the calorie counter, the step number, whatever,
Yeah.
the thing falls apart. But that's because the values haven't changed. They've just built an attachment to the thing that's helping them create a habit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. It makes complete sense. And I think when I said, when things come to us when we're ready, I believe that. And you're right. It takes time to really just do away with the things that aren't serving you anymore. And it might be, working with someone like yourself for that long period of time that you realize that those things aren't working anymore. And through the stuff that you're doing with them, like whether it be the nutrition plans that you do and the coaching that you do, the physical stuff that you do with them in the gym, all of that then starts to align, doesn't it? And that's when things change.
Yeah, so it's the ripple effect of,
It's the ripple effect.
changing one thing. And actually, I speak to this as well about doing the free stuff first. And that sounds really simple, but sometimes it's the hardest thing to do because people think, you want me to just like make sure I get sunlight in the morning and not have my coffee till I've eaten breakfast. That doesn't sound like a very big deal. That doesn't sound very like hard or sexy. Like that won't change anything. And it's like actually those two simple things change your brain chemistry for
Mm,
the whole day.
yeah. What other free stuff can I do? I love free stuff. Everyone loves a free giveaway. I
But
mean,
I think the other thing to
God.
mention to your point as well, in terms of like, so one of the things you mentioned is around value system. And then the
Yeah.
other thing that you mentioned, I think, is to do with our expectation and our perceived idea of what success looks like in this arena. Because it's
Yes.
almost like, well, if I'm not going to be, I don't know, insert whatever this individual is thinking about, pre-baby body or this particular dress size or be able to do
Yes.
this particular movement, I just won't do anything at all. And actually, again, that's, partly because of how the fitness industry is kind of narrated and sold to us. Like, uh, it's hard because it's like, it's not like I won't and don't support clients to lose body fat and have aesthetic goals, because I do, but it needs to go beyond that. Like, because otherwise the thing won't last, because the goalpost is always moving. So
Yes.
you need to create other attachments to the value and to the endeavor that last
Hmm.
longer than, what you look like on holiday for 8 days or
Yeah.
whatever it might be.
And you're doing a lot of research at the moment as well. You do a lot of reading around, as you said before, neuroscience, the creating space, habits. Can you talk to any of these things that you've been learning? What are you really excited about at the moment in terms of your research and what that is bringing to your practice?
Oh, that's a good question.
I know, and it wasn't even on my list. I'm just going by the seat of my pants.
So yeah, I mean, as you said, I love to like read and be studying things. I've always been very self-led and self-directed because of my background. And people that tell me that personal training is boring or becomes boring blows my mind, because I'm like, you're
Yeah.
working with a human being, and if anything, it's overwhelming to know where to stop the
Yeah.
learning, where to direct the learning. Obviously, you have to be aware of staying within your remit as well, right?
Yeah.
But there's so much that we can do as practitioners to support people's lifestyle without overstepping into, therapy or whatever it might be.
Mm.
So yeah, recently I've been getting into a bit more around neuroscience and stuff, and sort of
Mm.
I got into that because of going down like a kind of hole on sleep and then your circadian rhythm, and how that aligns with your neurochemistry throughout the day, how
Yes.
absolutely important that is for people that are on a spectrum of ADHD, particularly
Yeah.
because of being between hyper arousal and finding that
Mm.
sweet spot somewhere in the middle. Yeah, so that's what I would say I'm kind of like in my jam with at the moment.
And you're also exploring your own creativity in music and DJing.
Hmm.
And are you still doing your art? Like where do you get your creative flow? Where is it? Where are you playing at the moment?
Yeah, so music has become a really great way for me to express myself again.
Mm,
That's reasonably new. I've actually only been DJing for about 3 years now. I've always connected really strongly to music. I used to dance a little bit. I used to put on events, and I just never felt like an arena that I would or should step into in terms of playing music myself. And then when I hit my 30s, I was just a bit like, "Ah, I just don't care anymore."
do it.
So I just was like, well, I'll try it. And if it brings me joy, I'll just keep going.
Yeah.
And it really did. And also I wanted to push myself because I'm a little bit of a tech phobe. So I was like, I don't know what all the buttons do, and I've got to learn about this, that, and the other,
Yeah.
And actually, you do need to learn what the buttons do, but you can also really go by your ear and your musicality as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So I've been really, really enjoying that. I mean, I'm going to say something quite corny, which I don't normally say out loud that much. But for me, like, I still consider myself an artist because to me, an artist is just someone who is very curious about the world, and tends to kind of think of things that they don't feel exists in the way that they want them to, and then tries to make that happen. I'm not saying the thing hasn't existed because nearly everything has already existed.
Everything.
But to me, it's about how you navigate the world, the lens in which you look at the world, and then
Mm,
how you kind of show up in it. So
yeah.
I actually basically what happened was I started to value this work far more than my exhibition. Like I was doing gallery setting type work, white wall gallery
Yeah.
type work before. And I was like, "Oh, this isn't really, who's this reaching? Like, who's it for?
Yeah.
Like, how am I helping people, And so I actually feel like, yeah, the way, the facility that I created, the value system of the business that I run, how I work with people. And then of course, obviously, like now the DJing as well is all part of my artistry, I would say.
Mm, yeah. And there's a lot of collaboration as well that goes on, isn't there?
Yeah.
Who are you sort of working with at the moment? You got any projects on that you're excited about?
Well, there's quite a lot of changes going on for me at the moment, so I'm not really working on anything else big with other people. I would actually
Mm,
say collaboration wise, it feels more client to coach in terms of
yeah.
that being a collaborative endeavor, working with some like really fabulous, great, interesting people who I also learn a lot from and find a lot of inspiration from. Really fortunate to work with the amazing people that I do. I would say actually in terms of collaboration in the industry, like not so much. It's quite it becomes a bit individualist actually, and
Mm,
that's something that I've struggled with, um, because I think that if values align, I think that strength in numbers, like, and also
yeah.
we need community, and I think that's one thing I do struggle with actually with the fitness industry in terms of that, because I've
Mm,
also never been sort of I did weightlifting for a little while, which I loved, and that had a little bit of community there for me, but I can't do that anymore sadly, because of my hip. So yeah, I've never really had a fitness community in that sense. But I'm
mm,
also very like, I don't like to be put in a box. I don't like to be put in a box. Like I don't like to over identify with one thing. So like when I started being a coach, people didn't really understand, you know, that I was a coach, but then I was also like an artist, and I also dressed like this, and I also did,
yeah.
and then but then in the DJ world, like it's also a bit like you're also in fitness, like everything, and I'm like, yeah, because we all
Yeah.
do loads of
We can
things.
be everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are not just one thing. We are multifaceted, and
Yeah, exactly.
it's about embracing all of that identity, and the right people will gravitate towards you, and you'll build that community, and you are building a community for yourself though with Sculpt and the clients that you're working with, and Can you talk to me about, how you get into creative flow when you're building a program for
Hmm.
one of your clients? Like, how does that show up for you?
Yeah, so program design can be, well, is to me a very creative endeavor, because ultimately, there's a system that we go through in terms of wants versus needs with the client. We work around what the actual endeavor is, what the goal is, what we think they need and what they want, and try and get, enough carrot and enough stick. But then you also start thinking about, well, what personality type is this client? And are they ready to explore this thing that they might find a little bit laborious or a bit boring or
Mm.
too challenging? It's all about when and how you pitch it. And of course, like, you've got endless hundreds of exercises to choose from as well. So obviously you whittle that down by the wants and needs, and then you whittle it down by biomechanical issues, and then you whittle it down again. But then again, you've still got, like, well, what would this client enjoy? What's their personality
Yeah.
type? Like, I've had some clients that rush so much that I literally give them exercises that make them slow down, because they're just, I can say it until, my eyes fall out,
Yeah.
but they're just rushing. So I purposefully give them exercises that they can't do fast, for
Yeah,
instance.
I'd hate that.
And then also, because I work with clients week by week, I'll ask them to tell me, well, what have you got going on next week? Like, or what's
Mm.
going on in your life right now? So, like, I've had a client with a breakup,
Oh,
and
gosh.
we've been navigating mood around that. And I've even programmed
Yeah.
stuff in order for her to kind of like express that a little bit,
Yeah.
So yeah, to me, it's, yeah, very, very creative.
Yeah. And, so personal and so special, the relationship that you develop with your clients, because it isn't just wham bam, thank you, ma'am, get out, do your exercise and get out. You are approaching this person holistically. You're looking at all aspects of their, like you said, personality, their lifestyle, their family setup, their work, their energy. So it must be an incredibly fulfilling process to work with you. I mean, I know because I've done a little bit of it.
I'm much better now as well, though, Lucy. I'm much, much better.
You were so good then. God, do you know what it is? Like, I wish that I could get to sculpt. I know you do online. I know you do online as well.
Hmm.
But for me, it's about that being the interaction and being in a space with somebody that I really love.
Hmm.
But, you do have clients that you work online with, don't you? How does that sort of play out?
I mean, not really that much differently, to be honest. Like, we have a lot of contacts. So there's contacts, every week.
Mm.
And there's a kind of bit more of a deep dive call once a month as well. And yeah, it's the same thing. It's just communication, conversation, exploration. There's a little bit more of a lag with online coaching, because obviously I'm not getting the immediate visual cue. So
Yes.
we call it a bit of a lag. So where I might change something immediately in the session, I might change it at the next session
Yeah.
on online coaching, once I've seen, the video or the verbal feedback or whatever it might be. But I think
Mm.
it's becoming more and more popular now, and I was kind of a little bit resistant to it, although I was actually already doing it.
Yeah.
So basically what started happening was, clients that had been with me for X amount of time were moving away, or, whatever it might be, or were feeling like, what, I've got the autonomy to go to the gym on my own, but I'm not ready
Yeah.
to be totally on my own yet. So I was already
Mm.
coaching a lot of people remotely. I just never marketed the service, because to me, I was like, I need to feel like I can deliver this service really well. I need to find my feet with it. I need to, all of those things. I need to earn my badges, you know what I mean, being an online coach. So yeah, but the benefit now is basically like, if you want to work with, unfortunately, there's not, like, probably in your local area, always going to be someone who's completely aligned with you, or is sort of more master coach level, been doing it sort of like 5, 6, 7, 10 years. So online coaching gives you capacity to work with that person, however you found them, that you do feel like you align with and does have the knowledge and expertise that you require. I'm not saying that you can't find that locally. Sometimes you absolutely luck out and you can, but not definitely not always. So
Mm,
it's not really that much different, except that there's a little bit of lag on the feedback, and there's a bit more responsibility on the client, obviously, to provide the feedback as well.
mm. Yeah. I think it's about tuning in, isn't it? It's about listening to what you need and going back to the very start of our conversation about looking at how you structure your day
Mm,
and finding or making pockets of time for you to work with a coach like yourself, do the exercise, look at your meal planning. I mean, Carl and I were just chatting before we went out just now. I was like, we need to get back to meal planning because we tend to just raid the fridge,
mm,
you know, just like the end of the school day. I feel like we live our lives by this same question every single day. What are we going to do for dinner?
mhm, mhm,
But meal planning, when I was working with you, was such a big part of that.
mhm.
Is it still very much, like thing that you hold on to and kind of, ask your clients to focus on in their program?
Yes
Or has it
and
kind of
no.
moved and shifted? Yeah.
Yeah, yes and no. So I'm very, in terms of like nutrition, I'm very led by the client. So I also feel like people should be able to come to me for exercise, and I never talk to them about, well, one, I never talk to them about their body weight unless they talk to me about it. And two, unless it's something that I feel is really impacting their session and their recovery, then I won't necessarily inquire that much about their nutrition unless they say to me that's something they want to work on.
Mm,
Which, to be honest, if people don't at the start, once they've gotten into the process and they've done an other self work, whatever that might be,
mm,
they usually do end up bringing it to me when they're ready. Meal regularity is a big one, because that's going to again really determine how you feel throughout the day and the decisions that you make. It also increases the stress in the body. If you're just eating at random times, the body is instantly stressed because it doesn't know when it's
yeah.
going to get its next meal. It doesn't know how long it needs to conserve energy for. It doesn't know how long it can concentrate for, all of these things. So
Yeah.
it is very important, but it's also about the timing around when you bring that in with a client. And I think
Mm,
the biggest thing, there's so much resistance to people around meal planning, meal prep, thinking about what they're going to eat, because there's such a huge emotional connection to food. I don't know what I'm going to feel like eating, which is an interesting thing to say if you actually unpick that, because it's like, well, what are you going to eat if you feel like that? And then what choice are you going to make if you feel like that, you know?
mm,
So that's quite an interesting concept to think about. Like, I don't know what I'm going to feel like eating. And it's like, oh, okay, so you're making your nutrition choices based on your emotional landscape.
mm,
So before I just tell them, well, don't eat that, only eat that, I'm going to start asking them like more about that, eating in relation to their emotional landscape and why that
yeah.
feels so like strong for them.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of I'm circling around in my head around this idea of, and you've mentioned it, stress, emotion, trauma, and this intersection of creativity and movement
Mm,
and the work that you do, as artists, as creatives, as human beings, we hold on to our trauma and our creativity, and the way that we move our bodies can help support healing,
mhm,
can't it?
mhm, yeah.
It's they're so intertwined,
Which is why I
aren't
think
they?
it's wild that, like, I go back to, I never forget. It's been 3 guys that have said to me over the 10 years I've been in this industry about how boring personal training is. I mean, what you just said, like, obviously, I know we have to stay in our lane, but we have to have
Mm,
some level of understanding, curiosity, you know. in these things because they are connected. One thing I actually am about to do is a CPD in being trauma informed,
Mm.
which is this really great charity have set up. They're called what they called the Movement, and
Mm.
they have got a CPD now called Trauma Informed, which is basically what it says. It's to be informed around how to guide people through exercise that are have trauma responses.
Yeah.
And again, it's like I'm not going to make that my USP, but if I can do a day's study and be a little bit more informed around
Mm.
how best to approach that with a client, because the statistic that they gave is like 85% of women, I mean, there's men, of course, as well, but this just happened to be a statistic on women,
Mm.
are experience trauma. So,
Yes.
it was like when I was doing like way back when I first started my career, I was doing classes like everyone has to. And I read
Yeah.
lots of statistics around how many females injure themselves because the class isn't sort of tailored to women. Yet it's like
Mm.
80% female attendance, and you're like, well, doesn't quite add up to me.
Mm.
Uh,
No.
so
Gosh. Counterintuitive.
yeah. So movement
Counterproductive.
is
Sorry.
definitely key when it comes to the healing process. And that might
Mm.
not be hurling really heavy weights around to start with for sure, but even lower level movement is really beneficial because we start getting out of our mind and into our body. And for people that have experienced a lot of trauma, that in itself can be a really triggering thing. So it's definitely something to be aware of. But then I think,
Mm.
once that trust happens, because you build strength in the body, okay, and it's like you literally then build safety. Because if the body feels
Yes.
strong, the body feels safe as well.
Yeah.
So again, it's all about pitching it right and, the right dose at the right time and all of that
Mm.
stuff. But as soon as you build that trust in someone and then you layer on the fact that they're investing in themselves and then you layer on the fact that then they're valuing themselves better, that ripple effect again is huge on how they then are in the world and how they show up.
Mm. I remember a conversation I had a few months ago. It was with creativity coach Tara Jackson, and we talked about the sometimes the need to be in the throes of chaos in order to be creative. But then just
Mm,
speaking to what you've just said about actually sometimes we need to feel safe and we need to trust ourselves in order to be creative. It's like that fine balance, isn't it? And
mm,
I guess, when you're checking in with yourself, when you are moving, some of those things can settle and you can make sense of whether you need to be in that chaos or whether actually what you need is to be calm and to feel safe and secure, and then some of your best work can come out.
mm-hmm,
I can't get over how entwined, it all is actually. When you're talking about, the narrative in the industry of, you need to look a certain way, you need to be this, this ideal weight and the summer body and blah, 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 blah. It's bullshit, isn't it?
mm-hmm,
I mean, I know you
100%.
can't say, but it is. I'm saying it's bullshit.
It is though, because I'm like, and I did this really in the early days because I thought it's what I had to do, but I no longer post any physical pictures or transformations. If clients want to post it for themselves, that's obviously for them to do and that's
Yeah.
fine. Because it's like, well, that's great, but what about this person in 10 years' time? That's what I'm interested in, you know?
Yeah.
Like I really am more interested in like how do we actually help this person create a really sustainable habit. And when old clients contact me and they say, I'm still training 3 times a week, or I train twice and swim once, I'm like, amazing, like that's exactly what I want to hear like 5 years later.
Yeah.
And just going back to the chaos thing, I think it's like also to think about, does it need to be chaos, or does it just need to be space to play? Because like
Mm.
play and chaos are two different things as well.
Yeah. They
And
are.
play is something that we're not good at doing as adults.
We're really not. I mean, yesterday we had a water fight. We went to a barbecue and the children were playing with the water guns, and I threw myself into it. July, I did, and I felt so happy,
Yeah.
joyful. I was having so much fun. Everyone was laughing. We were all like the adults lost. The adults lost. The kids got us against like the patio. They were like hosing us down. And it was chaos. It was actually chaos. Like the food got covered in water,
Yeah.
but we were playing and it was so much fun. And we don't, do we? We don't do it. And I think like when I used to go to the gym, it was a little bit like playtime because I was, there was music and there was the atmosphere but it also felt quite stressful
Mhm. Mhm.
as well. And I guess it's about finding that balance again of that playfulness. And you'll bring all of that to the table when you're working with a client.
Yeah, and I think it's about, like, I always say, like, there definitely can be play in your training and your movement for sure, and there should be, but it also needs to have some play with a purpose is good, because what I find with, if you went into something completely unstructured, very playful for a long time, you tend to then not get adherence, because over time there does tend to be in the background some level of an idea of what progress or an outcome looks like. And
Yes.
this is what can happen with people that hammer like fitness classes and stuff, is that really they have this then off on thing, because after 6 months they've either like injured themselves or done too much and can't keep it up, or thought they were just going because they love going, but then 6 months down the line and they've realized they've not progressed in anything, they're a bit like, oh, what's all this effort
What's the
for?
point?
So it's treading that really fine line,
Mm.
because ultimately, like, if we are investing our time in something, like, we need to understand its purpose. And sometimes its purpose might be just to play. And some of my
Yeah.
clients that are a little bit more advanced, because it's also like you've got to kind of earn the right to the movement when it comes to like weight training, particularly. But some of my, much more competent clients, I'll literally say at the end of their program, like 10 minutes upper body play, explore inversions, practice your handstand,
Yeah.
no other prescription. But I wouldn't give that to like a beginner, that just started, because also they'd be like, I don't know what to do. So it takes a while to get there.
Oh, it's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, you are thinking long term, thinking sustainable programs, or thinking about the whole person. And with an aging population, certainly. I mean, I'm in my early 40s now, and I'm thinking, what do I want to be able to do in 5 years' time? What do I want to be able to do in 10 years' time? I mean, my grandma's 94. She can still get up and down off the floor. She still does her sitting up from the chair. She still practices yoga.
Amazing.
She's incredible. She's her mind is good. She can still tell jokes and have Carl against the wall. With the when are you gonna marry Lucy? Like she's so, and she knit, she used to knit, she used to make things, she was very creative, very crafty.
Hmm.
And I look at her and I go, wow, like that's what I want.
Hmm.
But it's all of those things, the movement, the play, the curiosity, the crafting, the community, she's very much part of the community. All of that sort of plays a part, doesn't it? Uh,
100%. And I think that goes back to the stuff that I was saying about the things that we're doing free. It
yes.
seems like a really small thing. Oh, she was knitting, but actually, the Japanese term it ikigai,
Yeah.
which basically means like a meaningful skill. So it's very
Mm.
relaxing because it's repetitive and you do know how to do it, but it triggers a particular part of your brain because it has some level of skill. So it's one of those things that you
Mm.
kind of get lost in. So it's like puzzles or knitting or like maybe woodwork or crochet or whatever.
Mm.
Um, but actually, like, we're starting to lose all those things because it's just not how we're naturally living our lives now. And so when some people find the health and wellness industry, oh, it's all a bit fluffy, now I've got to use this thing to get that, and now I need to take magnesium, and It's like, well, yeah, because we've evolved the way that we live. So we have
Yes.
to do some things to attempt to mimic the way that we previously lived, which is how
Yeah.
we should technically live, but we don't anymore. It's like we have to counteract the fact that we work on a screen for 6 to 10 hours a day. We have to
Yes.
counteract the fact that we sit down all day. All these things have changed slowly as we've evolved, and like we're actually not like moving fast enough with it, actually.
No. No, it's frightening. It's frightening to think, and being in education and seeing how our children are growing up, and the screen time, the sitting down behind desks, the I don't know, there's a real disconnect. I
Mm,
think that's what it is.
mm,
There's a disconnect.
mm.
And I don't know what the answer is. I genuinely don't know what the answer is, but hold on to some hope that there's enough of us to counteract, as you were saying, to work with people as they start to move through school and, go into work. And it's about those habits, isn't it? And families having those habits.
Yeah, I think it's about like being sort of purposeful with it as well, because your grandma, for instance, probably wasn't going, oh, I'm going to make sure that I knit until this age because that's really good for my brain and my regulating my nervous system. She didn't have to think about those things, I imagine. She was just doing those
No,
things.
just doing them.
And whatever activity she was doing, even the way that we clean right now, we barely have to move half the time when we clean. Whereas we would have been doing all kinds of which ways and on the floor scrubbing and
Yes.
sweeping. And, now we've got a little robot Hoover that just, you know what I mean? It's like even things
Yeah.
like that. So we have to just remind people like, no, we have to purposefully action these ways
Yes.
of being now because they just don't happen otherwise. And it sounds again quite cheesy, but we are built to move. That is what we're supposed to do. We're built to move and we're built to think and we're built to survive. And all of those things have changed as we evolve. And we have to now purposefully do things in order to like maintain, the way that our body
That we're
works,
meant to be.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
know. Gosh. And I guess that's why, those simple free things that you talked about feel, um, I don't know, massive and impossible, and to put them in the diary. Honestly, it's been so lovely talking to you. What are your thoughts on how our brains need movement and, you know, um, those connections that we're building when we're working in that somatic way?
Mhm.
Or the books that you're kind of reading, basically just to kind of pinpoint, signpost some of our listeners. Check this out, have a little read, do your own research.
I think it's just it's really about like nurturing kind of each part of ourselves. So you can either think of it in a very kind of like more emotional led, maybe potentially more spiritual
Mm,
way based on your intuition and your feeling, or if you're more logically scientifically minded, you can approach it from the neuroscience neurochemistry position. They're both kind of really the same thing because these, you know the other side is impacted by the
yeah.
neurochemistry, and yeah, so it just depends on the personality type which way you like to approach it. So
Mm,
one of the books that like really led me on my like, I don't know, really sort of advocating for myself, my lifestyle, how I wanted to be in the world was The Art of Living by
mm,
Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Buddhist teacher. Very, very beautiful book, all just to do with just looking up really and being present in the world and like valuing yourself and noticing the small things and embracing all, the emotions, all of the feelings of chaos and the feelings of calm and all of that. And then
mm,
something that's like much more for the logical headed, and
yeah.
much more scientific is Robert Sapolsky, Behave. So that is very much to do with, so it's the biology of humans at our best and worst. So he's a science writer.
Great.
So this is basically why we do all the things that we do. This is very much to do with neurochemistry and stuff. And then my other one, which kind of ties into the creative thing, is Rick
Yeah.
Rubin,
Uh-huh.
The Creative Act. And it's called The Creative Act, A Way of Being. And the first quote that he opens it with, I really love, is
Yeah.
by Robert Henry.
Mhm.
And he says, the object isn't to make art, it's to be in that wonderful state which makes art inevitable. And I think that
Yeah.
really ties into how we shape the container in which we allow that to happen. So it's not just up here, it's also how does the body feel? How's the body operating? Yeah. So yeah, the object isn't to make art, it's to be in that wonderful state which makes art inevitable. I think that's really beautiful.
It is beautiful, and I'm gonna finish it there. It's absolutely the best place to finish. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. It's been great.